Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers have been all over the pro days all week long. They've seen Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, and Desmond Ridder as of Friday. But who do they really want? That's an interesting question. And what are things they could do in the NFL draft coming up? It's uncharacteristic for the Steelers to trade back in the first round. They've never really done it. But is this the year, in Kevin Colbert's final year, that they do it? We'll talk about that here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Joining today is a former host of the show and a new member of the 93.7 The Fan Empire, Adam Crowley. We'll talk with him about all that and more on your Pittsburgh Steelers in just a minute. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Odyssey. Remember to check us out on YouTube as well. If you are watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button on our YouTube page to get all of our daily content in addition to our breaking news episodes we release sometimes throughout the week. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day. Joining me today is one of the OGs of the Locked On Steelers podcast, a former host from many moons ago. But Adam Crowley has made his triumphant return to the Locked On Steelers podcast. You know him from his many years. He used to host the Adam Crowley show, but now he has joined 93.7 The Fan, where you will find him his upcoming work. And you can also listen to him along with our friend Wes Euler on the Ears and Beers podcast, covering all things West Virginia sports. Adam, it's so good to hear from you, my man. How you doing?
Well, I'd like to clarify something.
Whoa.
Yes, I did used to host this podcast, but that's when it was bad. Now that it's good, you've built this thing up and you've brought me back on. And I like it better that way. It's like if the Pirates brought Jack Wilson back in the Andrew McCutcheon years.
That would have made sense, right? But no, unfortunately, they are the Pirates are too cheap for that. Unfortunately, I don't have to pay what Bob Nutting would have to pay to bring Jack Wilson back. Otherwise, I would not be able to afford to bring you back on this show, my good friend. But it is an honor to hear you say that. I am very glad to see you continuing to thrive and strive in our industry here, because Adam Crowley, you are a trendsetter in Pittsburgh radio. But Adam, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they've been visiting all the pro days now, and you were right there on Steelers Twitter with me, seeing all the people saying, "Well, they're at Malik Willis's pro day. It means they're definitely picking Malik Willis, even if they have to trade all their picks to get him." And then you saw Mike Tomlin visit all the pro days of quarterbacks playing this week. To you, are the Steelers definitely going to pick a quarterback in the first round, or are they just keeping it even and just saying, "Hey, we're doing our due diligence right now"?
It's quarterback Tinder, man. That's all this is.
Quarterback.
You're going out there and you're seeing, do I want to swipe right or not? You got to do your due diligence. You got to read the profile. You got to see if there's maybe a bikini shot or two. And then you can do the swipe. Like, of course they need to see if one of these guys can be the quarterback. I'll tell you what, Malik Willis, he's the guy that looks best in one of those little thong bikinis. That would be my guy. That is a dime piece of quarterback Tinder. I'm just telling you right now, if Malik Willis is there at 20, he won't be. I would take him in a heartbeat if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think that they have the capital to be able to trade up and get him. But listen, if they think he's the guy, then you can trade up and get him, because he would be the guy in your mind then for the next 10 to 15 years. But it's quarterback Tinder. They're just poking around, prying around, reading profiles, and they're just doing what every single man is supposed to do, and that's vet your options.
Exactly, I agree, and it's about looking around, saying, okay, these are ideal picks right here. These are great people that if they fall to us, I guess in your analogy, they'd be women. They could also be men if that's
or
how
men,
you
or men
or men. We are open to all things here on the Locked On Steelers
Damn right.
podcast. But point being, the Steelers are keeping their options open, but some of the options would potentially be available in the second round. And some of that revolves around the idea of, being available to pick these guys in the second round. Now, me personally at 52, I still think it's unlikely that they'll get a Desmond Ridder, because if I was to pick one of those second round guys, Desmond Ridder would be the guy. Like Matt Corral, okay, cool. Like he had some things to him, but he got hurt right before the season ended, and I'm not as sold on him as far as his ceiling can take him. Because you made a really good point this week on Twitter. You talked about how ceilings are what you aim for in the quarterback in the quarterbacks in the NFL draft, not necessarily just NFL ready stuff. And I say that being a Pitt guy who wants Kenny Pickett to do well. I covered him. I'm a Pitt alum, so I do want to see him do well. But at the same time, in the NFL draft, you go for ceilings. You go for, can this guy be the guy that takes my franchise to the next level? And Malik Willis has a higher ceiling than Kenny Pickett. He just does with his arm and his athleticism. Desmond Ridder's another guy that could have a higher ceiling there. But I legitimately think if the Steelers are going to do that, they're going to have to trade back in the first round and maybe pick up an extra second round pick. Is that a move that you think is ideal, or do you think with the Steelers' needs at cornerback, at safety, at all the other positions, should they stay put at 20 and stick to that pick and see who they get?
I would stay there. I don't think it's ever unrealistic to think that there'd be a possibility of moving back, but I would stay there because their needs are so many. Now, you could play devil's advocate and say their needs are so many, so why not collect picks? I don't love this draft enough to want to collect picks. I want the best player available at a position of need at 20. So I wouldn't trade back. But, maybe they could get a penning, right? If they trade back a couple of slots and pick up an extra pick, I'm not sure. But for me, I'd stick at 20. And I think that would be the thing that would give them the best opportunity to get a good player at a position of need.
I feel you on that. We're going to talk a little bit more about the quarterback position with the Pittsburgh Steelers in a minute here. But first, we're going to talk to you guys about betonline.net. It's that time of the year again. It's college basketball is well underway, and March Madness, the Sweet 16 has begun. So you want to make your money on betonline.net. They have all the latest odds, contests, and player props, and betonline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this as well this season. And it's not just basketball. They have the NBA, the NHL, MLB, it's starting back up real soon, UFC, boxing, all those things can bet on right when you go to betonline.net. And you can also play your favorite Vegas casino games right on their website. And head to their website today by going to betonline.net, either on your computer or on your mobile device, to learn more about the trends and the action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm Chris Carter here with Adam Crowley here on the show, talking more things Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Adam, the Steelers looking at quarterback right now. Some people are wondering what this means for the quarterback depth chart as it is. As it stands right now, if the Steelers were to make no other additions, they'd have Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins. Everyone presumes Mitch Trubisky, the starter, Mason Rudolph, the number 2, Dwayne Haskins, the number 3. But if they drafted a guy, and Kevin Colbert has said that they are willing to, they're going to go to camp with 4 arms. That's their plan. So they still could easily draft a guy. But if you draft a guy, do you see this as a guy that should be waiting behind Mitch Trubisky for a year, or do you see this as a guy that's immediately pushing him to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers in their offense?
I think Kenny Pickett could push immediately, and I'm not a Kenny Pickett hater, despite my allegiances to West by God, Virginia.
Better not be.
I think Kenny Pickett's going to be a good NFL quarterback, but like you alluded to in the prior segment, Chris, I'm not a big believer in NFL readiness needing to be my number one selling point. Like Pete Prisco of CBS said that he thinks Desmond Ridder could walk in day one and be a starter. I don't know if I agree with that, first of all. But secondly, so what? I'm not drafting a quarterback for next year. I'm drafting a quarterback forever. Like for the next 10 to 15 years, you hit on one of these guys and you hope that they one day in the first round, right, are going to have their jersey retired. There's going to be statues of these guys. You don't put a statue after 1 year. You don't. So give me a guy that has staying power at the NFL level. Give me a guy with the tools, with the talent. Patty Mahomes sat for a year. He's eating steak, ketchup, disgusting, dancing around with his brother.
That is nasty. I don't care what nobody says. Ketchup on steak is nasty, and I love ketchup.
He wasn't well done when he came out, right? He was medium rare, this guy was. You got to get a guy with the ceiling. Like Josh Allen. I mean, he's completing like 40% of his passes when he walks into the league. I mean, we saw him in the Duck Hodges game. He didn't throw 4 picks, but yeesh.
Yeah, he wasn't that good.
He wasn't that good. And people want to talk about Brian Dable, the offensive genius. Yeah, what did Dable do before Josh Allen got there? What was he as an offensive coordinator? Not a bupkis, zilch. This guy was he wasn't a great coordinator.
Zilch. I love you going through all the words.
Yeah, I mean, if you say nada in bupkis, you have to say zilch. It's just
right. It's the rule.
It is the rule. So I don't care about whether or not you can go tomorrow. Can you be my guy in 12 years? That's what I care about. And I think talent gets you there. Like, no one wants Alex Smith to be their quarterback for 10 years. I'm sorry, they don't. And I don't know if Kenny Pickett maxes out as that. But I think that Malik Willis can max out as more. And not to mention, the AFC is filled with freakazoids. I mean, you look at who was in the Super Bowl for the AFC last year and Joe Burrow. He's like the least freaky of the bunch, and he's a stud. Yep. So you need a guy, a real guy, not just a guy.
No, I feel you.
Radio.
Radio. You're feeling it again. I see you getting your energy.
I'm drinking beers too.
Okay, I see you doing that. But that's not beers for YouTube's sake. That is seltzer water that he's drinking. Yes, for YouTube's sake, because sometimes YouTube pings such things. But in all things serious, I do think that's a major part of this is that the Steelers, and I've said this all along, and Wes, you and I have talked about this as well in the show. The Steelers this year need to build towards more so fix the offensive line, fill the holes in the defense, be a strong running team with a strong defense, and the quarterback position. If it works out, great. But if not, it leaves you the window to go get your guy next year. Because next year, you're going to have a stronger class of quarterbacks, presumably, as long as everyone comes out that we believe to come out. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Phil Jerkovich, Brennan Armstrong. A number of guys could come out there. And there's always the surprise guys. Like who had Zach Wilson as being the guy last year was going to be taken in the top 10. No one knew his name until they were like, oh, yeah, that BYU guy. And they're like, wait, what? That's how it works sometimes in the NFL. But Adam, I look at this plan and I see, with that plan in mind, if they don't trade back, and even if they do trade back and they get a later round, first round pick, there's guys like there. I think Jordan Davis is going to be off the board because he's too freakish of an athlete. But what if an Andrew Booth Jr. was there? One of the top cornerbacks in the draft. What about a Lewis Cine, a Jaquan Brisker? A guy on defense that can be a butt kicker, as Jim Wexell would call him, or a guy who could be a game changer and make give your defense another young guy who hits hard, changes the tone of games, and is a guy that you could see becoming part of that elite crew that you're trying to assemble, so you don't need an elite quarterback over the next 6 years, even when you draft the guy you think is going to be great, because you want to watch him grow.
Buddy, we talked about this a year ago, and I think you're right. You can build a great team, and you can win with a Mitch Trubisky, or you could win with another name your Walmart quarterback, right? If your roster is good enough.
Walmart quarterback.
And I love Mitch. I'm on the Mitch train, okay?
Yeah.
Trubisky train. I screwed it up. You got to go with the T.
The alliteration. Thank you for fixing it. It's a hashtag.
It is. Here's my deal. People don't want the Steelers to draft a corner because they don't draft corners. Listen, Senquez Golson fell in it was like the Sarlacc pit. Like he's out there at St. Vincent College, right? He just falls in a divot, and then your career is ruined. You're short to begin with. Like, that sucks. Go play baseball. And you look at Artie Burns, and Artie Burns, a lot of people's minds, was not a first-round pick, and so they reached on him. I don't mind if the Steelers draft a corner that everybody thinks is a first-round corner.
Exactly.
Like, that's fine. Go get a guy that everyone else thinks is good too. Don't make your own projection to be like, you know what? This Artie Burns guy, this is a first-round talent. And don't do the thing like, Sauce Gardner. I don't like him. Like, don't be the outlier.
Yeah.
if you like someone that everyone else likes, conformity's not always the worst thing. Like when I went from tighty whities to boxers, I became instantly cooler. You got to conform.
What are we
sometimes.
doing?
You just gotta.
Wait, you conformed into boxers. That's like, were you peer pressured? Did people like how did that even work?
Listen, people wear boxers. Losers wear tighty whities. I grew up on the tighty whitey, and then I conformed. And then whenever you're changing in gym class, people will make fun of you for other reasons, but they're not going to make fun of you because of what you're wearing underneath your jeans.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. We get that now. We thank you for
Conformity.
for explaining conformity with that very vivid analogy there. But I want to talk to Adam about more offensive additions the Steelers can make on their roster, either through free agency or through the NFL draft, because outside of quarterback, they still do need other position adds. We'll talk about that in a second here. But first, I'm going to talk to you guys about Built Bar. It's that time of the year where everyone's starting to give up on their New Year's resolutions, but not you. You're going to stick to Built Bars because Built Bars will taste great as they help you stay on your diet plan. And how do they help you stay on your diet plan? They do a great job because they are low in calorie, but high in protein. If you haven't tried the new Puffs flavors, you're missing out because they're the first ever protein-infused marshmallows. They're fluffy, marshmallowy, and they taste amazing. They come in flavors such as yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. You can also get your regular Built Bar that's covered in 100% real chocolate. And again, low calorie, high protein. The average Built Bar, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. The average candy bar, 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. There's so many flavors to choose from double chocolate to coconut almond to peanut butter brownie to raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. And you can check them all out and all the new flavors that are getting released every single month at built.com. When you go to built.com, be sure to use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED 15, LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order of Built Bars that you have delivered right to your door. Again, that's built.com with the promo code LOCKED15 for 50% off your next order of Built Bars. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm Chris Carter. He's Adam Crowley. We're talking all things Steelers here. Adam, got to ask you real quick, though.
Yes.
Everyone's talking about quarterback, but it seems like people seem to forget that the Steelers only have 2 receivers coming back from last year. Juju Smith-Schuster's a Chief. Ray McLeod, not McDonald, is a 49er. They're looking for new answers there. All they really have is Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. But at the same time, they don't exactly have a guaranteed number 2 running back that's supposed to be a really good one behind Najee Harris. Zach Gentry looked like a good number 2 tight end last year, but you still might want to have security there, and you can still always add to this offensive line that we're still not sure how they'll look next year. What do you see as the biggest thing the Steelers need to do with the rest of free agency and maybe even the earlier parts of the NFL draft to address this offense?
I wouldn't hate another interior guy.
Ooh.
And I know that they've already locked in money there. I would not have paid Chooks what they paid Chooks. I realize it's really a series of 3 one-year deals, but I still think they could have spent that money a little bit wiser. Receivers a legitimate concern if it's not the Pittsburgh Steelers who have the concern. Like, they're going to get a guy, and he's going to come in, and he's going to perform. And listen, I wouldn't rule them out, them doing it in the first round. I really wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
They did it. Listen, Kevin Colbert did it with Plex, his first draft. He did it with Santonio Holmes, traded to get him.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's on the table, and people will probably crush them for it, given what they've been able to do later on in day 2 with receivers in the draft, and that list is obviously almost endless. But look at what happened last year when the Bengals added Mr. LSU to Mr. LSU. And I realize they're not going to get a guy that good. I mean, come on.
Right.
I mean,
that's just Jamar Chases don't come around every year.
Yeah, you ain't that lucky. But can you get a real difference maker in the first round? I absolutely wouldn't rule it out. But for me, I still think interior offensive line, even a tackle, like I'm not sold on Chooks. So offensive line to me, I almost want to throw a bunch of bodies out at it and see what sticks, but I'm not sure that that's what they're going to do. So I don't know if they're going to draft a tackle. Like they like the left tackle and they just paid Chuk, so we'll see.
We'll certainly see. I would say if Charles Cross, Ikem Ekwonu, or Evan Neal somehow fall to them, I don't think any of them will. I think they're all top 15 picks easily in the NFL draft class. But if one of them fell to them, they'd sprint to the podium and say, "That's our guy," and that would change everything. But it's also interesting because, and you and I have talked about this before in Steeler Nation Radio, the Steelers have never been about offensive tackle as a premier position. That you think about all the greats of Steelers lores and legends. Offensive tackle is one of those positions that kind of falls back. Center, guard, legends, Alan Faneca, Mike Webster, Damani Dawson, even David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey. But offensive tackle, kind of Max Starks and Marcus Gilbert and guys like that. That's kind of like the tone that you get from there. So I feel you on that, but you're not wrong about the interior offensive line. I really like Zion Johnson as an interior offensive line pick. If he's sitting there at 20 and those top corners are gone and your top defensive linemen are gone and maybe some top linemen, if all the guys that you have pegged as like, hey, we can't pass on these guys are sitting there and Zion Johnson sitting there, you know what? That's a guy that plays center and guard. Then basically you have 4 guys who could do both positions because James Daniels plays both, Mason Cole plays both, Kendrick Green is supposed to play both, and then Zion Johnson would presumably play both. And that would give you, that's Mike Tomlin's wet dream. He'd love him some, oh my God, 4 guards who can play center? This is everyone's best thing in the world. So I feel you on that. But I also think that even in free agency, they should be looking for the guy who will take Benny Snell's job because Benny Snell ain't been that good. And if you're going to really run the football next year, if you're going to protect Mitch Trubisky and make him or whoever is their quarterback not the primary factor of the offense, you need a run game. And Najee Harris, great addition. I liked him when they drafted him. He's awesome and all that. And if they fix the offensive line, he's going to be even better. But you need a number 2 back here. And I just think that if you're looking at that position, you need a guy who's going to really help Najee Harris and not just be we hope he works out like they have with Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell. But what say you?
Yeah, as circumstances change, so should philosophy. And what I mean by that is you can run a running back till the wheels fall off, and that's your MO, and that's the thing you've done your whole career. But if you're going to rely on the running game when you're trying to protect your quarterback, you can't just give it to Najee Harris over and over again. So I do think that that's an area where they do need to address it. And you're right. I mean, Benny Snell, he's just a guy backup running back.
Right.
Like he's a below average backup running back. Give me an average backup running back. Give me a good backup running back and churn through those guys. I mean, you want to get the best mileage out of running backs. And I realize, look, San Francisco is a different situation given their system and all that. But I think less is more. More is more? Is that what I'm trying to say? More is more. There it is. TM. Crowley. More is more. Just came up with that. Genius.
I agree with you. I mean, and other guys still available. Sony Michel, a guy that used to be a first-round pick by the Patriots. He's floating out there. You still got Marlon Mack, a guy that was a one-cut back for the Colts and got supplanted by Jonathan Taylor. And then you still got a guy like Darrell Williams out there. There's options available to them at the running back position. I just think that you need to have a veteran guy behind Najee Harris to say, hey, not only are you running the ball, but you're able to block, you're able to catch the ball. You're a full functioning number 2 option for us should Najee need a breather. And I think that has to be part of this team if it wants to be a running team. Last thing for you here, Crowley. You look at this wide receiver class and you see this, and I guess this is also encompassing the NFL in a bit of ways. This is a heavy wide receiver class. Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Drake London, Jahan Dotson, Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks, Sky Moore, yada, 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 Christian Watson. All these guys are here. The Steelers have a chance to draft any one of those guys and plenty of them afterwards and boost their receiver core. But is a receiver in today's NFL worth the draft price that was given up by the Miami Dolphins to get a Tyreek Hill? Because Tyreek Hill, phenomenal receiver, super speedster, did great things with the Chiefs, but you gave him like 4 draft picks, a first and a second, and you're paying him $25 million a year. What's going on there?
I think it's an absolutely genius move by the Chiefs. because all you hear about is when you pay a quarterback, you can't have a great roster because you got to pay dudes. And they're just like, okay, we won't pay the dude and we'll collect all the draft
All the
picks.
picks. All the
Like,
picks.
that's a cheat code right there. You're going to give me what for Tyreek Hill? And that's not to say he's not valuable. And it's not to say he won't make Tua better. And it's not to say that Patrick Mahomes isn't probably going to feel that one or take it on the chin. But, boy, when a quarterback hits that first contract after his rookie contract, you can't build a great roster. The Chiefs like, come on. Yes, you can when you traded Tyreek Hill. And I think they made out better on the deal. I get why Miami did it, because they bought into Tua. They must not believe in any of the other quarterbacks or want to use a pick on that in this draft. And you're thinking, okay, how do we best surround him with an opportunity to succeed? I get it from both sides, but I think the Chiefs actually helped extend their window by doing what they did here. They might be worse off this year, but I think they're better in the long run.
I hear you on that. Adam, we got to get you out of here. We're at our time here for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. You are the man. You are the Corral man, to be exactly. I just think you said Corral man without the L, and I thought it was just like, isn't that Crow man? It's weird, but you explained to me it's Corral man with the L in it, and so you are the Corral man. Let people know can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Well, I always take the extra L. I mean, that's just who I am. Hail Dub V. At _ Adam Crowley on Twitter, where I'm getting roasted right now. I have had a beer, and it's a stronger one from Cinderlands. And so
it's a seltzer water, YouTube. It's a seltzer water.
Whatever you're selling, that's what I'm drinking. In fact, I put marijuana in my Built Bar.
Oh, my God.
And I tweeted out the quarterback Tinder thing. I'm sitting, oh, wow, quarterback Tinder. Brilliant, genius, hilarious, Crowley. Put the people are cringe, disgusting. What are you, poor man's Colin Cowherd? I am cringe, I am disgusting, and I am a very poor man's Colin Cowherd. So, yeah, I think we hit all the bases. So, thanks for having me on, as always, buddy.
As always, thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast. Find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Hit the like button in this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of our daily content. Also, if you enjoy this content, go on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star with a positive comment. Like this person, because you'll get a shout at the end of the show. This is Tabes27, who says 5 stars, great show. As an Amazon delivery driver, shout out to DRT9. I listen to a lot of podcasts. This is always my go-to after my lunch break. This gives me great in-depth opinions about the Steelers that make me sound a lot smarter than I am when I'm talking football with my friends. Great show for any Steelers fan. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Thank you, Tabes27. And thank you, Adam Crowley, for joining the show here on Locked On Steelers podcast. Again, I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Participate in Mock Draft Monday. We'll have you guys putting your favorite drafts on for the Monday episode of Locked On Steelers podcast. Until then, we'll see you, and we'll be talking here about your Pittsburgh Steelers very soon, right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.